Today I will be giving my presentation on the arts, music, and literature of Chile. First up, we have the arts. I have a list here of some notable artists from Chile. First, we have Manuel Antonio Caro, who is well known for his painting Zamacueca, which is the picture here in the top left corner. He's considered to have introduced the costumbrista style of painting, which is a literary or pictorial interpretation of everyday life and customs, primarily in the Hispanic scene in the 19th century. Next, we have Jose Gil de Castro. He was an artist that was actually from Lima, but spent many years in Chile, both as a soldier and a painter. He was known for painting eloquent portraits and various religious themes, seen here in the slide. He wanted to create art that displayed the importance of the people and environment that surrounded him day by day. Next, we have Arturo Gordon Vargas. He received many outstanding awards and medals for his paintings, most of which were for one titled El Sario, which is pictured here on the top left. His paintings were so renowned that the government had asked him and another painter to decorate the National Library in Santiago with allegorical frescoes. Lastly, we have Carlos Sotomayor. He was a painter that was not well known by the public, but is still said to be one of the forefront leaders in the rise of Neo-Cubism art. Neo-Cubism was a movement in the 20th century that was aimed to make art and sculptures more modern, in a way where geometric shapes and planes were used. In the next slide, I'm going to be talking about acuarelas. In Chile, even the everyday citizens are artists using talent in a way to make their voice heard. With tapestries made of materials like burlap or sackcloth, these acuarelas were often used by Chilean women to tell stories and protest against the regime police for taking away their family members. Next, I have some items that Chilean citizens create, buy, and sell in their very own marketplace. Some of these items are hand-woven baskets, jewelry such as the lapis lazuli that I have pictured here, and even all sorts of cotton and wool textiles that can be made into ponchos or even blankets. Last, I have some sculptures that are around Chile. First is the Hand of the Desert, or also known as Mano del Deserto. This was sculpted out of iron and concrete by Mario Irazabov back in 1992 in the barren Atacama Desert. It is said that it is to emphasize human vulnerability and helplessness. Next, we have one of the most popular, the Eastern Island Heads. These sculptures are located on the Chilean island called the Eastern Island. There are approximately 1,000 statues called moai, which are monolithic human figures that were carved by the Rapu Nui people. And lastly, we have Icarus and Daedalus. This is located outside the Museum of Fine Arts in Santiago. This sculpture was created by Rebecca Matt Bello, and at the base of the statue it reads Unidos en Gloria y Muerte, which translates in English to United in Glory and Death. Now I'm going to be talking about the music in Chile. First, I have some instruments that are mostly used in Chilean music. The first is the zampoña, which is the Andean pipe here in the first pic. Then we have the caja valentina, which is similar to a drum and you play it with your hands. Then we have the charanga, which is a small Andean guitar traditionally made from an armadillo shell. Then we have the quena, which is a traditional flute of the Andes that's made of cane or wood. Then we have the trutuca, which is a wind instrument part of the trumpet family that produces a loud and severe sound. Then lastly we have the caschaquí, huilas, which is a leather strap that you would tie to your hand and it has bells on it. And typically they can be used to sound when like dancers move and like. Now I have some notable musicians from Chile. The first that I have is Los Jaivas. This was a band that typically played both folk and rock styles of music. Most of the ever-growing list of members from this band were from the same family, which were the Paras. Their band name Los Jaivas means high bass because the bass typically play louder than the other instruments. And here I have a clip of one of their songs.
Para la hija de un hombre con ojos de cristal y papel sellada en la piel.
The next musician I have is Victor Jara. He was a folk singer whose music was known for being very moving, and his feelings regarding politics were reflected through most of his music, to the point that where like some of his songs were even banned in Chile. His most famous song, Te Recuerdo Amanda, tells the story of a young girl waiting for her love to return from the factory, but there's an accident at the factory and he never returns. And I have a clip of this song as well.
Te recuerdo, Amanda, la calle mojada, corriendo a la fábrica donde trabajaba Manuel. La sonrisa ancha, la lluvia en el pelo, no importaba nada, ibas a encontrarte con él, con él, con él, con él, con él. Son 5 minutos.
Next up I have Violeta Parra. She was a Chilean composer, songwriter, and folklorist that is acknowledged as the mother of Latin American folk. Her song Gracias a la Vida remains one of the most covered Latin American songs in history. And I also have a clip of that song.
Y en el alto cielo su fondo estrellado, en las multitudes el hombre que yo amo. Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto, me ha dado el oído, que en todo su ancho.
Last but not least, I have Americo. He is the descendant of a popular bolero singer. He had been a part of a band called Alegria and created 11 albums with them before he decided to go solo. And since then, he has gone international, creating his own boleros music and becoming popular throughout like South America and Europe.
¿Quién te despertará con un beso en la mañana? Dime quién te llevará el desayuno a la cama. ¿Quién te escribirá canciones inspiradas en nuestro amor? Regalándote flores, dirá la primavera llegó y yo contigo hice un mundo.
And for my last slide on music, I have the cueca, which is also known as cueca brava. This is known as Chile's national dance. This dance is traditionally performed at most formal events and is known as a story of a man pursuing a woman who plays shy, hiding behind her handkerchief. And I have a little clip of this as well. last thing I will be covering for this presentation is the literature in Chile. Some notable artists that I have that were involved in the literature is Pablo Neruda. Neruda experimented with many literary forms and wrote about social and economic injustice that he witnessed traveling the world, and he also wrote about eroticism. He's won the Nobel Peace Prize in Literature, and beyond his writing, he also served as a politician and diplomat in the mid-20th century. Next, I have Gabriela Mistral. She was a poet, teacher, and feminist. Mistral won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1945, and she was the first ever Latin American woman and Chilean to do so. She typically wrote poems of love in memory of the dead, and of childhood and maternity. Now, throughout the 20th century, politics played an important role in Chilean literature. After publishing The House of Spirits, which deals with political and social conditions in pre- and post-military coup in Chile, Isabel Allende became very widely popular. Her novels are noted for their powerful and dramatic nature, and typically depict romance and female in a male-dominated world. Last but not least, I have Roberto Bolaño. He was a Chilean novelist, short story writer, and poet. And most themes of his work revolved around the inescapable violence of modern life in Latin America, his youth, and love and death. Two of his most famously renowned books are the fiction novel 2666 and The Savage Detectives, which I have listed here.